arrived, and just in time. You can call me the Narrator, and I will be your ghost host for this episode. I would like to share with you 4 haunting tales, 4 terrifying stories that are bound to send shivers up your spine. So please, grab your nearest blanket. Perhaps grab yourself a nice glass of wine. Hold your loved ones close, and do, please, ensure that your doors are locked. Let's begin. Our first story is a cautionary tale to always be aware of your surroundings, especially at the hospital, and it is entitled Red Band. When you are admitted to a hospital, they place on your wrist a white wristband with your name on it. We've all seen it. We've all had it at one point. There are other different colored wristbands which symbolize other things. For example, the red wristbands are placed on the bodies of the dead. There was one surgeon who worked on a night shift in a school hospital. He had just finished an operation and was on his way down to the basement. He entered the elevator, and there was just one other person there. He casually chatted with the woman while the elevator descended. When the elevator door finally opened, another woman was about to enter, and that is when a doctor slammed the close button and punched the button to the highest floor. Surprised, the woman in the elevator reprimanded the doctor for being so rude and asked, why did he not let the other woman in? The doctor responded, that was the woman I just operated on. She died while I was doing the operation. Didn't you see the red wristband she was wearing? And suddenly a feeling of dread set in as the woman on the elevator smiled and raised her arm and asked the doctor, something like this. Our next story should resonate with anyone who has ever felt the icy stare of a stranger. There's just something so unnerving, so discerning, so alarming, especially when you can't shake it. If you've ever had the eyes of a stranger focused on you, you might enjoy our next tale, entitled The Stare. A girl was sitting on the subway late one night, and she noticed that the woman sitting across from her was staring intently. The woman was sitting between 2 old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman wouldn't break eye contact with her, and the stare was beginning to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a new passenger got on. He was a tall man in a gray trench coat. He sat down next to the girl. The woman paid no attention to the man in the trench coat. She just kept staring at the girl, who was getting more and more creeped out as time went on. The 2 old men didn't even glance in her direction. She pretended not to notice, but each time she glanced at the strange woman, the stare continued. When the train was pulling to the next stop, the man in a trench coat got up to leave. Suddenly, he grabbed the girl's arm tightly, and as the doors opened, he dragged her off the train. The subway doors shut, and the train pulled off, leaving the girl alone on the platform with the man in a trench coat. Just then, she started screaming for help. "Calm down," said the man. "I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that train." The woman sitting opposite of you was dead, and the two men beside her were propping her up. Who knows what they would have done to you had you noticed? They say that the greatest gift in life is becoming a parent. Well, for one couple, they got to experience this more than once, and they learned that not all gifts are pleasant. This story is entitled The Ugly Son. There lived a rich family of 3 people, a father, a mother, and their baby son. Everything was perfect in their lives except for one thing: their son. Their boy was a deformed child from birth, and everybody was scared of the boy. He simply appeared hideous, and it made people feel uncomfortable just to see him. People even criticized the parents about the boy, feeling no love for it at all. One day, the parents couldn't stand the trouble and embarrassment of their son any longer, so they decided to go to the cliff at the edge of the road and drop him out into the deep sea. After they discarded of the small child, they couldn't ignore the fact that they had just killed their only child. So, like any logical human beings, they decided to have another baby. 9 months later, out comes a baby, and it turns out to be another boy, and he turns out perfect in every apparent way. They were so happy, so elated, they finally had a son that they could brag about and to show their friends and families. A few years later, the boy continues to grow up as a healthy and intelligent child. So one day, they decide to take a family picture out by the cliff. And as soon as they get out of the car, the boy comes to his mom and dad and grabs them by the arm, and he simply says to them,
"Mommy, Daddy, you're not going to throw me off the cliff again, are you?"
We have come to the point in our journey together where I must ask you for a favor. Now, it doesn't take much. Have no fear. If you've enjoyed the tales that we have told today, please do me the honor and follow this podcast, download the episodes, and most importantly, please do share this with a friend. Because after all, scaring is caring. Without anything left to say, let us go to our final tale. Our last story is a story about 2 friends who talk every day, you might have one yourself. Sometimes you can just tell when there's something wrong with your friend. And you think nothing of it. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Well, this story should have you check on your loved ones more often. It is simply entitled The Chat. It was a regular Friday night, and I was up late chatting to my friend Bradley on his virtual chat room we had found online. He told me the other guys who he had just met that he was able to stay up as late as he wanted because his parents were away until the weekend, and he had the house to himself. We stayed on there for a few hours having fun with these random people, and I noticed Bradley had taken a liking to one girl in particular. Soon enough, my mom began calling out for me to go to sleep. As I was about to log off, I asked Bradley what he was doing tomorrow, thinking he might want to stop by my place. He didn't reply for a while until Bradley is typing a message, and then it went blank. Bradley is typing a message. Nothing again. Whatever, man. I'm going to bed. We'll talk about it tomorrow, I said. It was just strange for him to stop replying like that. I didn't hear from him again until the next day, when I logged onto the chat site and he was on. He apologized for not replying last night, and he had said he'd just been busy. We had a brief exchange, and he said he would come over soon, saying it was urgent. This was fine, but queried why he didn't want to wait for his parents at first, as they would be home any minute. He insisted that there was no time because he had something really important to show me, and then logged straight off. I thought that was out of character for him, as he usually put his family before anything, and I grew curious as to what he wanted to show me so badly. I expected him to be over soon, as he only lived about 20 minutes away, when I received a disturbing phone call. It was Bradley's parents, who had just come home and were sounding extremely worried. They asked me if I knew anything on Bradley's whereabouts, to which I told them not to worry because he was, in fact, on his way over. The phone fell silent for a moment until I heard a deathly scream from the mother in the background on the other end of the line. The father drew a deep breath and bravely strung together a sentence that I'll never forget. "Get out of the house. Bradley's here. He's dead." They had found Bradley's lifeless body hung up like a coat in the wardrobe. I ended the call in shock as it became apparent why he had asked if I would be home alone, when suddenly I heard the back door creak open. Instinctively, I did the first thing I could think of and quickly crawled under my bed to hide. I heard the sound of footsteps coming closer, ever so slowly. I dared not to open my eyes, but when I dreadfully peeked through my fingers, I saw these pale, white, cold, bare feet coming into my room almost in slow motion. I would hate to see the person such feet belonged to. As I slowly approached the bed, you can hear the dampness of the footsteps peeling away from the floorboards. My heart was pounding in my mouth and I held my breath. And just when I couldn't possibly get any more scared, my phone let off a loud beep to notify me that I had received the message. It was from Bradley's phone, and it read, "Where are you?" As the feet stopped abruptly, dead in their tracks. And it seems we have reached the end of our tales. You see, that is all this ghost host has to provide for you for this episode. It takes immense amounts of energy for me to connect to this world, so I must recharge. However, you can help me do such. All you have to do is share this podcast with a friend, because after all, scaring is caring. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with two things. Firstly, memento mori. And secondly, even if you don't see me, I will see you for our next episode.